What's up, guys, and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and answer them here in video format. A ton of things to talk about this week with the Cleveland Browns, divisional game coming up this weekend, big game versus the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm just going to jump straight into your questions. And again, I'm going to start with Crizzo, who says, what's up, Q? Let's say hypothetically you get a call from Kevin Stefanski and he asks you, what do you think the Browns game plan should be on Sunday versus the Chiefs? What would you tell him? Love the vids below. By the way, I'm not qualified enough to tell Kevin Stefanski what to do, but if Kevin Stefanski asks what I think would work on the Kansas City Chiefs, I think running the football would be paramount. I think you're going to be able to get a lot out that play-action play. I think a lot of what they did in the early part of this season with that offense could work here. I mean, the Browns' offense has evolved to the point to where empty is just as deadly as under center for this Cleveland Browns team. So that's a good evolution, but I think this week would be a good week to get back to kind of the bread and butter of this offense, which is under center, play action, and run heavy. So I think that's what would be best. And also defensively, tell Joe Woods not to blitz, because if you blitz Patrick Mahomes, you give up points. That just tends to happen. It's ridiculous splits he puts up. Don't blitz Patrick Mahomes. This next question comes from Johnny Van Vetchen, who says, hey, Q, haven't watched the Chiefs much this year, so I was kind of surprised to see how many games they have had where they haven't scored a ton of points offensively. Is this due to the offensive troubles or just a flow of low-scoring points? Well, the Chiefs have had offensive line issues. They have had some, personnel issues. They haven't been able to run the ball as effectively as they would want. They definitely are coming into this game a little flawed. So they have some holes there offensively that have bottlenecked that offense. Sometimes, too, it can be down to Patrick Mahomes making adjustments. Teams have caught on finally that blitzing him is a terrible strategy and are just keeping people back, and that affects how Patrick Mahomes reads the field, right, where Patrick goes long to short. That's also a factor there. So a lot of things go into why that offense hasn't clicked on the same level, but we saw with Baltimore, right, an offense cannot click all season, and then all of a sudden right there in the middle of the year it clicks for no good reason. So don't use that as a reason to count out the Kansas City Chiefs this week, or to think their offense is going to be explosive, or to not prepare for them as if they're going to be an explosive offense. This next question comes from Giants Nation, who says, what's up, Q? Hope you're having a great day. My question is, do you think it's over for Ben? I heard he still wants to play and might consider playing with another team. What is your opinion? It would be hard for me to just imagine Ben playing for another team for multiple reasons. One, he did not play well at the end of this year. Two, he is an expensive option at quarterback at the highest cap hit in the NFL. And three, one of the things with Ben on why he probably won't come back and why I would see it difficult, and I get people are like, well, he has all that money owed to him, so he's going to come back. But one, you're not as welcome back as you were last year, right? Where everybody was just like excited to have Ben back in Pittsburgh because they felt like he was going to be the answer to all their problems. Now, Ben is not the answer to all the problems. Ben is one of the people suspected of being the problem in Pittsburgh. So that's a different environment. I don't know if Ben wants to just come back just to be a part of that. And also, it's got to be tough at 39, which Ben will be, to come back from surgery, have this team at one point be 11-0, and have have another December collapse. It makes you feel like there's just a ceiling on what you can achieve with this team, and you have to also consider the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe they get some pieces to fill in, but they have a lot of veterans that are going to be leaving that team in free agency because, again, the cap hit is so high on Ben. So it's not a situation that's like begging itself for it to be ran back next year. And the way that ended, it's just, it's a tough one to come back from. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ben retires. I think he either retires or that's it. I don't think he plays for another team. This next question comes from the Vault Dweller, who says, who do you think is primed for a big day for the Browns? Hopefully Miles can recover from his symptoms, but I think Jarvis could sneakily have a big day, an unsuspecting Chiefs team. I'd be interested to see what Kareem Hunt can do. Kareem Hunt has had some good days through the air, but he hasn't had that monster day on the ground in quite a while. And it looked like there were signs of Kareem Hunt finally looking like the Kareem Hunt that he had been all last year, well, half of last year and at the beginning of this year. We kind of were saying at the end of the season, like Kareem Hunt just hasn't been Kareem Hunt. He looks like he's ready to be back to that. And I'd be interested to see if he can have a big game, is motivated he's going to be playing against his former team. This next question comes from Blaine Stevenson, who says, "Hey, Q, you're the best part of the week. My wife tuned to me and said, betcha Q's going to be on fire tonight. Do you see any significant advantage on our tight ends versus the Chiefs linebackers, specifically Njoku and Hooper? Have any matchups that we can address and exploit?" I don't think this is going to be a huge game for the tight ends. Now, I'm probably going to be wrong on that, right? But I don't think this is going to be a game where the tight ends are going to be huge in the receiving game, just because I think the focus is going to be on the run game. Now, that could lead itself to some opportunities in play action. But for me personally, I never feel great about the game plan when we have to rely on these tight ends, because all three of them have had issues consistently catching the ball. Harrison Bryant at times has had fumble issues, drop issues. We know what the chronic issues with David Njoku has been. And even Austin Hooper, somebody who's supposed to be more reliable, has had those issues as well. So just because of all that, if I don't have to rely on those tight ends and make them a big part of the game plan from a receiving standpoint, I won't. I'd much rather rely on Jarvis and Rashard Higgins. So, yes, I get what you're saying, where there could be some matchups open, but I think it's going to be more of that energy is going to be used towards the run game. This next question comes from C. Zachary Chad, who says, "Do you think Ward will be 100% by Sunday?" All reports are that he had looked good at practice. He feels good. So, fingers crossed. He's going to have a full week of practice. That's the great thing. Him, Ronnie Harrison, all these guys, they're going to have a full week of practice. If everything, let me knock on wood, because last week they were supposed to. But they should have a full week of practice. Denzel looks good. I'm confident that he's going to be able to play 100% on Sunday. The next question comes from AH, who says, "Hey, Q, do you think Baker will throw for 3 touchdowns? Yes and no, because I think a lot of his passing touchdowns are going to just turn into rushing touchdowns, or they could just be screens, right? I think Baker's going to have a solid day. I don't think this is going to be the depend on Baker game, and I think it'll be very difficult to win if you have to play that kind of a game, not because Baker's not capable of winning a shootout. It's just winning a shootout versus the Chiefs. That's a different story. The next question comes from Jay John, who says, "What do you think will be gained if the Browns pull out this win, besides obviously going to the AFC Championship?" This is an opportunity for undeniable legitimacy, right? And I think the Browns are legitimate, and they've proven that by winning a playoff game. But this is undeniable legitimacy, because you can say the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? They just weren't that good of a team, coming into it. One of the last 5 games they have won. So you can point that out and be like, well, maybe the Browns got an easy draw against Pittsburgh, even though it's not what anybody was saying going into that game. That's what people can say to make an excuse on why it happened. If you beat the Kansas City Chiefs, people can say if the Chiefs weren't playing their best football or not, people can say that, but the reality is, if you beat the Chiefs, there's not much anybody else can say about you. So this would mean the Browns would have a easier time getting free agents. Think about a guy like Jadeveon Clowney. He didn't want to come to Cleveland last year because he didn't feel like Cleveland was a good enough team to contend for a Super Bowl or something like that. You're going to be able to get those free agents on some pretty cheap deals because they see an opportunity to win a Super Bowl in this team. That's what this means. Some real legitimacy, and I hate to use the term, but clout when it comes to free agency, when it comes to filling out vacancies that might arise in the coaching staff. You now become a top 4 destination for anybody who wants to win a Super Bowl next year. And really, when you factor that in, right, it would be a top 3, because if you anticipate both the Packers and Tampa Bay making their conference championship game, Tampa Bay is going to be an iffy situation where you don't know how long that's going to last because the age of Tom Brady. And then you have the other 3 situations which are going to be long lasting. So, you become one of 3 teams that people really believe can just go to a Super Bowl. And that that would have huge dividends down the line. This next question comes from Benjamin Safer, who says, Q, in a hypothetical AFC title game, who would you rather play, Buffalo or Baltimore? I would love to get revenge on the Ravens, but it will also be great. One of the two of the most tortured franchises in the league play each other for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Yeah, man, you guys know how I feel about it. I want Baltimore. I want it at M&T Bank Stadium. I want the rematch, right? That's the one team the Browns have not beaten this year. That's the one monkey they have on their back for at least this season, right? The Ravens haven't had like any kind of ridiculous streaks on us like the Steelers have. But, you know, it's a game that you really want, right? Because you had the game at Pittsburgh where you blew it and you didn't play as well at the beginning of the season. And then you redeemed yourself this week. Now you have that. Hypothetically, if you can face Baltimore in the AFC Championship game and play them and get that win back, then that takes all the asterisks off this team. That takes all of the, well, you know, they didn't show up in this point or this point off this team. That redeems it all the way. So yeah, that would be the one I want. Buffalo, look, I have a lot of respect for the Buffalo fan base. I love how Buffalo fans have always kind of supported the Cleveland Browns and vice versa. It's kind of been a two-way street with that. Browns fans have always showed love for Buffalo. And that's kind of why, you know, I don't want one of these franchises breaking the heart of the other to get to a place where they've wanted to be for so long, right? Like, that would be rough, right, if the Browns had to hurt the Buffalo Bills fan base to get to where they want, or vice versa. So, you know, I would like to avoid that. But, you know, Baltimore, I don't mind breaking Baltimore's heart. And, you know, there is some unfinished business when it comes to the Cleveland Browns and Baltimore based on some things that happened on that Monday night game. But that's it for all the questions for this week. Thank you guys for asking. Again, guys, have a great day. Have a good night.